Right. Ah, bummer.
Morning guys. Some of us have motorbikes that are described as keepers. I've got a motorbike. It's a Kawasaki Z650 B1, which I purchased in 1989, so I've had it for 35 years. It's my keeper. I will never get rid of it.
So let me explain what's going on. In the late 1980s, I was a student. I rode a Kawasaki Z650, a fantastic bike with a Yoshimura exhaust. To cut a long story short, I rode too fast and nearly lost my driving licence. Part of my defence while in court was that I sold my 4-cylinder 550 and bought a single-cylinder 250, which I then turned into a chopper. A good friend of mine, Big Rich, had a Kawasaki Z650, which I thought was the bee's knees. Eventually, he sold me his 1977 Kawasaki Z650 B1 for the princely sum of £270, which was about $300.
The last trip on the Z650 was from the UK to Finland to my brother's wedding. It was a 9-country trip. The bike worked perfectly. There was an issue with the carburetors. It wouldn't go particularly fast. It wouldn't maintain a fast speed, but it went perfectly. The problem is that the bike drinks oil like a 2-stroke. It chucks engine oil out. I have to wear black shoes, black boots. I have to wear black trousers, and the bottom below the knee on the trousers is literally caked in oil. It's just a tired motorbike. The engine is tired. So I've not used the motorbike in 4 years. It needs servicing. Can I be bothered to service it? Perhaps when I retire I could give it an engine service, but currently I'm not interested. I do, however, have another Z650 engine.
In 1992, I saw an advertisement for a 650Z complete bike except for frame.
So my plan is, as opposed to having this beautiful Z650, which is my keeper, and having it languishing in the back of the garage, I want to take this motorbike and I want to put the second engine in it, which hopefully will run, and I want to use the Z650 because it's too nice to have, not to use. So I'm gonna change the keeper engine for the replacement engine because the keeper engine leaks so much oil and is worn out and it's done too many miles and it needs a proper refurb. Right, this is the keeper Z650. So that's the keeper engine that I'm going to take out. Here's the second bike, and that's today's project. Swap the engines over and hopefully that engine's going to work, isn't it? Right, hot and sweaty. So we've managed to get both the engines out. So there's the first engine that hopefully is the good engine. This is the worn engine. It runs, don't get me wrong, but it's just leaking oil everywhere. And so now we're just basically going to swap the engines over, and then we're going to try and work out the connectors. There's slightly different wiring, but we'll have a little play with that. And I've got my mates who are twice as intelligent as me, and they'll sort it out. Hopefully we'll get the Z Keeper back on the road for the summer and life will be good. Okay guys, let's have a look at where we're up to. We've done the engine swap. My mates Steve and Bob helped me. Moreover, Steve is my go-to electrics man. In all honesty, he built the wiring loom which is on the Keeper Z, and he built it from scratch. That's how good he is. Here's the Keeper bike, and the Keeper bike has the engine that hopefully has done less miles and hopefully is in better condition. So the engines are ideal, but the electrics are slightly different. So the original B1 from 1977 came with a regulator, which is here, and a rectifier, which is here. As you can see, that rectifier's not happy. My mate Steve, who is the whiz with electrics, changed this regulator rectifier system because we couldn't get a replacement part for this. But what he managed to get was a combined regulator rectifier, which he put on the Keeper Z, and it sat on the Keeper Z working perfectly for 30 plus years. Unfortunately, the fittings on the new engine and the fittings that he put for the replacement rectifier regulator are not the same, so he did have to do quite a lot of jiggery pokering and sorting out, and it was a very time-consuming exercise. But we'll see, won't we? We'll see, but hopefully it's all... he sorted it 30-odd years ago, so I can't see why he's not sorted it again. Yes, here's a thought. The engine that I've taken out has a clutch in it that is... It's only done about 4,000 miles. I think from memory I put it in before I went to Finland on the Z. So I will take the clutch out of the engine that I'm resting and swap it for the clutch plates and clutch springs that are in the newer, hopefully lower mileage engine. That's what I'm doing today, really, is just attacking it and putting it back together, and I'll put some music on and I'll just shuffle around and have a pleasant afternoon. Today's the next morning, if that makes sense. Yesterday ended on a low. Basically, I swapped over the clutch plates and put the springs in, put the bolts in, looked in the manual at what sort of torque to torque down the bolts that hold the clutch plates in place. I have an old torque wrench. Here it is. It has to be 35 years old. The torque setting is something like 16 to 20 pounds per foot, which is very, very little. So I'm set the gauge and I'm torquing it up, and I'm thinking to myself, it should click. Oh, there he is straight away. It should have reached its torque, and it just didn't feel right. Anyway, you can guess what happened. I carried on winding it. Ping! The bolt snapped, the head flew off. So basically, I've got a screw thread that snapped off inside the clutch housing, and it's a right old mess. What I've done is I've tested it on a bolt, and he's set to 10. Let's have a look, and let's have a look, and will he click? Oh, there he is straight away. So that's what's supposed to happen, isn't it? Now let's set it to 18, which is my magical amount. And let's have a look here. And no. Look, it's not clicking, it's not clicking, it's not clicking. And guess what? It's gone and snapped. Clearly my torque wrench is damaged. I found the head to the bolt that snapped. Obviously, sod's law, it's not snapped neat, flush and flat. It's snapped on two dodgy diagonals. I've done some research. I purchased some of these. So these are designed, if you're putting hinges indoors, you will have a countersink recess where your screw goes. This has a countersink recess which matches the diameter of the countersunk hole in the hinge, and when you put it in, it finds a center and then it drills, and the drill pops out, and the drill is absolutely in the middle of the countersink hole, exactly where you want it. Then when I drill down, it puts a little indent right in the middle, not offset. I then bought myself a set of stud removers. Again, I wasn't aware, these have left-handed threads. Because this is left-handed, what this should do theoretically is pull the stud out. If it doesn't pull the stud out, I've got a set of stud removers which should pull the stud out.
Get rid of some of the swarf and muck. Right. Let's have a look what's happening. Right. Oh, the stud's coming out. There you go, can you see it? Right. Oh yeah. Look at that beauty. Look at that beauty. And well, there's a job done. Now, all of these have been torqued up too much, so I'm gonna see if I can order a whole new set of 5, because these might have micro little tears or fatigue in them. While we're here, look at these. These are, well, some are worse than others. That one has got absolutely no thread in, and there's one missing here. I'm going to order some more little screws for there. What are the points like? Obviously we need to get service items.
Right then, we've had a parts delivery. Parts deliveries are always exciting. Let me show you what I purchased. So we've got oil filter O-ring. I do need to take the carbs to bits and just flush them out, give them a good clean. For the exhaust, we've got exhaust gaskets and exhaust sealer for where the downpipes go into the second half of the exhaust. I've got a brand new torque wrench, so this torque wrench here can clearly go in the bin. Spark plugs, points. I've got screws for the clutch basket. Now all the little screws on the where the points go, so I've got a replacement set of those. Oh, I forgot to show you, I've got the battery on charge. Here's the battery on charge. The battery is old, but he is on charge. Whether he's got any life in him, I don't know. I think there's a bit of a number there and a bit of something going on. Right, so that's basically where I'm up to. Assembly, and spring is on its way. The weather is improving. It would be lovely to get this old Z back on the road. Now, when I came to change the oil, there was no oil in it, which is not normal. However, I think I'd taken the clutch plates and the clutch springs out of this one to put into the keeper engine because the clutch was really worn on the keeper engine. So I changed the filter and put in some clean oil. It then started dribbling. So if you have a look at my workbench here, we've got quite a lot of oil. Basically, obviously you think you've not tightened up the sump plug, or you've not tightened up the oil. There we go, look, here we go. This is the oil filter housing. They were both tight. What it was doing, it was leaking. There's like a belly pan here, and it was leaking around this gasket here in several places. Inside there is like an oil filter, a mesh filter. I reckon I perhaps took that off, and I reckon I perhaps cleaned out that mesh filter. So perhaps I didn't torque down the belly pan bolts. Perhaps the gasket's worn on that. Anyway, I bought myself a set of gaskets, so here we go. So I'm going to take off that belly pan part. I'm going to swap the gasket over. I'm going to put the belly pan part back on with a new gasket. I'll put the sump plug in. I'll put the oil filter housing back, and then hopefully that won't be leaking. Then the next stage will be to get the carbs on the bench and take them all apart, clean them out, and refit the carbs. Clean the petrol tank out perhaps, put in some fresh fuel. I've got some new points, so I can just give it a little bit of a service like that. Making very slow progress of this, to be honest, and the weather's getting better, so I do need to get a bit of a wiggle on, really. Now, this is turning into the longest engine swap you've ever seen. Isn't it nice when you find out what's wrong with a mechanical problem? The frustration is when you have caused the mechanical problem. It gets even worse if, in identifying the mechanical problem, you created a second problem. So I've worked out one problem, but created two problems myself. Let me try and explain more. Here's the it's the belly pan. Oh dear, and it's leaking oil. I'll put it down. I replaced the clutch. I then filled the vehicle up with oil, and the oil was leaking through the seal round the belly pan. So I bought a new gasket, put a new gasket on, torqued it up, and it's still leaking. Well, there's no reason why it should leak, because it's got clean faces, it's got a new gasket, and it just shouldn't leak. So I'm torquing it, and then I'm tightening it up just a cat's whisker, a little bit tighter, little tighter. You can guess what happened. I snapped my second bolt. So I've now snapped a bolt underneath the engine that holds the belly pan in place. So I then took the belly pan off. I then realised that the O-ring I'd used, so it was the right external diameter, but the wall thickness, the diameter of the O-ring itself, should be perhaps 2.5 mil. Well, the one that this Muppet shows was 3.5, 4. So what's happened is the oversized O-ring has prevented the engine casing and the belly pan casing from sitting flush. Therefore, I've gone and snapped a bolt. So that's where I'm at. I've ordered the correct O-ring. So I'm going to take the bike off its motorbike stand. Because I can't get underneath it particularly well, I'm going to lie the motorbike on its side. I'm going to extract the stud, and then I can use the correct new gasket and the correct O-ring. Anyway, hopefully this will solve the oil that's leaking out of the bottom. Okay, let's just recap where we're up to.
I've fixed the oil tray at the bottom, so that's not dripping. I've taken the carbs to bits and had a look at the carbs, which were immaculately clean, to be fair. So the carbs have been taken to bits and the jacks have been pulled out and they're tidy. I've refitted the exhaust pipe. I've changed the points. I put in some new points, so it's got new spark plugs and it's got new points. It's got fresh oil. I think it's ready to go. I've got some fresh fuel, so the next thing is to put in some fresh fuel. I've drained the tank and I've cleaned the petcock or fuel tap. So I think I'm going to put some oil in. I think I'm going to put some fuel in. I'll wait until the fuel gets into the carbs and hopefully the float valves are going to work and it's going to shut off at the right level, and then I'll try and start it. So that's the current plan. Right, 5 litres of fuel, fresh fuel, and not spilt a single bit on the tank. Let's put the fuel tap on and see. If I open this a fraction, that's not working for me. Oh yes, it is. It's dripping here, so it is working. So that implies that we've got fuel inside the float bowl, and the assumption is if there's fuel in one float bowl, we've got fuel in all the float bowls. So we're in neutral. We've got an oil warning light on. So I'm going to start without the choke just to get some fuel in. Right, absolutely nothing there. Let's try that. Let's try that. So now we've got the choke on. Oh, did. Oh, oh. That almost sounded like the starter motor, which it shouldn't have been unless the starter motor's dragging. Oh, oh, that nearly caught. The battery's not very healthy. That's why I'm trying to do it on the kick, not on the battery, because the battery's not very healthy. But I will give the battery a go in a second. Let's take the choke off. Oh, oh. It's not too far off. Right, shall we try on the starter motor? Ah, dead as a dodo. There's no... So I can't turn it over on the electric. Kickstart's unreliable. Or kickstart, it's trying. I think... Well, the real next thing is to bump start it, isn't it? Life in it. In fact, I would go so far as to say it is firing on 4 cylinders. It's almost ticking over. Can I take that? Oh look, it's almost ticking over. Look at that. That sounding alright. a little. Is there a baffle in there, or is it the number plate? Oh, I think it is the number plate. So the initial rattle was the number plate rattling on there. So I've just bent the number plate. So look, this is clean. This is sounding good. It's basically doing everything, isn't it? It's ticking over. It's not smoking. It's not excessively rattling. Good. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to put on a jacket and a helmet, and I'm literally just going to go up the road and back because it's working. Right. Ready to go? This is smooth. This is pulling well. I'm pleased. Right, I am literally just going to have to go around the block and I'll listen to it. Wow. Right, go around the block. Something's gone wrong. It stalled. I had to bump start it, and I'm sure if I take my hand off the throttle, it's going to stall. Yeah, it's not firing on all of them. I don't think it's firing on 4 anymore. So it's not as good as I first thought. Right, so no, I think it's only firing on 2, not 4. Well, there's a job, isn't it? So I've got something else to... But it was working. It was momentarily working, and it was momentarily working well. Right, let's put this thing away. We'll pick it up next weekend. I think it's only firing on 2, not 4. Right, I'm getting quite frustrated with this motorbike. So the last job was I needed to change the condensers and I needed to change the wire that came out because the little rubber grommet was worn out. There's 2 screws that hold the points cover on. Both the threads on the engine side that the screws go into are mullered. You know, they're nasty and they're stripped. The top one was the worst one, and it literally had 1.5 mm crack, big enough that I could get a knife blade in it. I bought a helicoil set so that I could helicoil and put some nice neat threads in. So I got my helicoil oversized drill and I started drilling. Listen in here. That's a chunk of engine casing that snapped off. So instead of it biting now over a full centimetre, it's now biting over the bottom 4 millimetres. It's another job for another day. The condensers went in fine, the lead went in fine, so hopefully the spark plugs are new, the points are new, the condensers are new, and then all the rest, the coil and the HT leads and all that sort of stuff, is off the old bike that used to work.
So hopefully the electrical setup now is good to go. We'll see in a minute. I've also, because I was hoping to ride the bike today, I've also put me lightweight panniers on, purely so as I can put a bottle of water and a waterproof and a jumper and chuck my gloves in. There's another oil leak. There's definitely an oil leak. Here, where the shaft for the gear changer comes out, underneath here is a plate, and I'm sure it's weeping from that plate. There's also a screw on that plate, crosshead screwdriver, and it's mullered. Somebody has obviously been in there and tampered with it. Generally, it's not a tidy engine, but it's the engine of choice for the minute. So the next thing that remains really is to see if this will start. Oh, I've got my new battery in, haven't I? So I've got a new battery, so it should be good to go. So that's good to go, that's good to go. Right, let's see if this new battery works at all. Starter motor's not keen, is it? Oh. Does sound like 4 cylinders today. I think I'm going to get the crash on there, and I think going to, oh listen, I'm definitely 4 cylinders. I don't know whether it's too early to take my foot off the throttle. Oh yes, that's 4 cylinders. It's not bad. It's not bad, you know. Because it was doing this last weekend it was doing this, and then it only went on 2 cylinders. Oh, that's sweet. Right, we're going to take this. Last time I tried it, I got 3/4 of the way up the hill, and then it went on to 2 cylinders. So hopefully today, I'm just going to go around the block, and hopefully it'll maintain 4 cylinders throughout, hopefully. Kickstart. Oh, listen. Yeah. I'll go round the block. I'll load it diesel in the next 5 minutes. fantastic. We've just done 7 miles. I've done all 5 gears. I've had the revs up to 8,000, which is probably a bit naughty. I can categorically say this engine is working. It's fantastic, it's absolutely fantastic. There is a slight drip, the oil leak, the drip is insignificant, but basically this engine is working, and it's working a treat. You know, it needs a little bit of work, the clutch needs adjusting and the starter motor needs tidying, it's a bit lazy, and this points cover, as I say, some of these threads are a bit iffy, but fundamentally it's working. I think I might just try and start it, and then you can hear how lovely it is. That's a road test as far as I'm concerned, and I'm extremely happy. Let's see if it's going to start. Oh, starter motor's a bit lazy. Right, let's have one more try. Let's take the lights off. Can you hear it? No, it's not on 4. It's obviously got an intermittent electrical problem, because that categorically is not on 4 cylinders. Right, it's not quite. It's not quite as sorted, because just then when it started it was on 2 cylinders as opposed to 4 cylinders. A week ago we got the bike going on 4 cylinders and we went up and down the road. We then stopped the bike and then we tried again and it was going on 2 cylinders. Today we got the bike going 4 cylinders. We did 7 miles, stopped, and then when I tried to restart it, it was only on 2 cylinders. I then have driven home on 2 cylinders, limped home, and it's really not happy. We've done the old trick with the spark plug and taking the HT leads and putting it across and kick-starting it. Cylinders 1 and 4, which go off this coil, are working. Cylinders 2 and 3, which go off this coil, are not working. So the next thing is to buy. I honestly have had this bike since the late 80s. I don't think I've ever bought replacement coils and HT leads in that entire time. So I'm going to treat ourselves to a set of coils for either side and a set of HT leads, and hopefully that will resolve this issue. Okay, let's have a recap on where we're up to and what we've done since last time. I have replaced the coils, I've replaced the HT leads, the plug caps, so that's a full assembly on all 4 cylinders there. I've taken out the starter motor and I've cleaned the starter motor. I've put a gasket and gasket sealer around the output shaft cover, which is hidden behind this cover here. I've replaced the fuel line with a modern fuel line that takes the modern petrol. I've replaced the bulb inside the dashboard to indicate I'm turning left. Took the fairing off, didn't I? So almost without further ado, I'm going to try and start it. Let's give it a go and see what happens. Right. Right. It's still not firing on 4. Now, looking at the electrics, so everything on this vehicle
was years old, so I've replaced an awful lot of it. If we start down here, the points are new, the condensers are new. The wire that comes here and sort of through here to here is new. So hopefully they're all working. This loom here has continuity from these three through here to here, where it picks up the wires from the new coils. And then the new coils have new HT leads, and then the new HT leads have new caps, and the spark plugs are new. So the system, that's the system. So initially there doesn't seem to be an awful lot wrong with it. However, on closer inspection, and this is something you can't see, this wire, and I got it so that it was almost touching, and it could have sparked across, it could have, I'm hoping that the problem was that there was no gap between this terminal and the bracket that it sits on. And I'm hoping that was the cause of the problem. So then what I've done is I've done the old spark plug test, and the spark plugs, each of them are working, but moreover number 3 and number 2 are working, which is off the coil at the back here. So hopefully we've got 4 spark plugs working. Hopefully we've resolved the problem, which was this connector that was sitting too close and sparking across to here, perhaps. So hopefully the electrical problem is resolved, and hopefully the vehicle is good to go. Okay mate, off we go. You've just paid? No, you've not paid.
Okay, you paying for 2?
Yeah, that's cool.
There's 4 quid change, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right guys, I'm a little bit stressed. I've just done this speech without the camera running. So here we go. Look, I'm at Pool Key Bike Meet. It's absolutely fantastic. Here's the problem. As we were driving along, and I've done about 80 miles, I was monitoring the electrics, the dashboard lights. I felt the lights were getting duller and duller, implying the battery wasn't charging. Anyway, we stopped. When I tried to start the bike on the electric start, it wasn't happening. So let me just see if it starts on the... Oh, it looks brighter. Oh no, it won't stay. No, it won't. Oh shit, Steve. It's flat as a pancake.
Have you got kickstart?
Yeah, I have.
See if that'll do it.
Shit. Just let that bike go. So where I'm at is I'm going to have to limp this bike while it's always the smallest motorbike with the loudest exhaust. So I'm going to have to limp this bike back to Steve's house before it gets dark, so as I don't need to use the lights. I'm going to leave it at Steve's house.
Is it worth you leading, so if you do stop, I'll know about it?
That's cool. That's cool.
Do you think that's a good idea?
I think so. No lights, no indicators, no braking. I'll lead, and hopefully we'll get back to your place.
Do you know how to get there?
Oh no, of course I don't know how to get there. All right, mate. Means nothing to me, Stu. Absolutely nothing. I'm sure you'll resolve it though. So you think it might be that regulator rectifier?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So Steve thinks regulator rectifier. Did I tell you the story that Steve fitted that years and years and years ago? Did I tell you the story about it setting on fire? Over 30 years ago, my girlfriend and I left the bike on the pavement, on the sidewalk, and we went into a convenience store just to buy some groceries. Anyway, some guy comes running in, Mister, your bike's on fire. Well, bikes don't set on fire, and it wasn't on fire, but then I thought, what happens if it is on fire? So I went out, and sure enough, the bike was on fire. At the time, there wasn't a steering lock. No, not a steering lock, a seat lock. I just intuitively, and you could smell it, and it was on fire, intuitively just lifted the seat, took a big gulp of air and blew it out. However, in taking the big gulp of air, I basically ended up inhaling all this burnt plastic nonsense. And I do recall spending the next month, 6 weeks, with a bad throat because I'd inhaled all the muck. Anyway, my mate Steve, who is the whiz with electrics, changed this regulator rectifier system because we couldn't get a replacement part for this. But what he managed to get was a combined regulator rectifier, which he put on the Keeper Z, and it sat on the Keeper Z working perfectly for 30 plus years. So let's think about this. When we got it going, Steve was there and we had the engine running and we put a meter across the battery. From memory, let's say it was 14 volts. And then what we did was we revved the engine and it went up even more, implying that the charging system was working. Then we've driven from Pool Key and the bike meet to Steve's house. Now, I was sat at a set of lights and I had the neutral light on and I had the brake light on. And I think I actually saw the split second when the charging system went from not working to working, as if the charging system's intermittent. So we've got back, put a meter across, and the battery's just below 12. We've started it up and revved the engine, and the meter doesn't change. It's later in the evening and it is starting to get a tiny bit, you know, the light's starting to fade. My ride is 30 miles or so. I don't want to get stuck on the motorway. So what I've done is I've phoned the breakdown service. So I think what happens is somebody comes out from the breakdown service, assesses it, and then somebody else comes along with a vehicle that's appropriate for getting me home. Fantastic.
Oh, when it decides to load up.
Right, update. Recovery man number 1 has been, as predicted, there's nothing he can do to help. And he's messaged a second recovery vehicle who will have facilities to bring the bike and take it home to my house. Right then, it's just gone 2 o'clock in the morning. That means I called the UK's largest breakdown firm at 8 o'clock. So it's taken us over 6 hours to get 26 miles. But at least I'm home. What a day. Okay guys, last time we met I was at Poole Quay. The battery intermittently wasn't taking a charge. So here in my hand, I've got a new regulator rectifier. While researching this and while trying to purchase this, I've got a letter from Kawasaki dated 1992 with the engine numbers and the frame numbers of this engine. It states that it's a Z650 B1. It is actually a B2 engine. Obviously, I didn't know this. The visual difference, I've been informed by the guys at Z Power, is that on the engine casing on the left-hand side as you sat on it, where it says Kawasaki, on the B1 model, it's removable and it has 3 screws. On the later B2 model, it's not removable, it doesn't have any screws. So this is actually a B2 engine in a B1 frame. I doubt there's much difference whatsoever. It's still the old engine, it's still got the kickstart, which delights me no end. But if I get this regulator rectifier fitted, I can put a meter across and check that it's taking a charge, and then hopefully this bike will be reliable. I brought the bike outside because we're now going to get it going and have a look if it's taking a charge. I'm really hoping it's going to take a charge. The issue is, because the previous was an intermittent problem, even if it's working now, doesn't mean that the problem's resolved. It just means that it could be working in an intermittent format. I'll put a meter across without the engine started. I'll then start her up and I'll put a meter across and hopefully the voltage will increase. I'll rev the engine and then hopefully the voltage will increase even more. Let's see what happens. So in short, currently the battery's taking a charge. Hopefully it's a permanent charge. Hopefully it's not an intermittent charge. What I need to do is go for a ride, stop every 10 miles, 5 miles, put a meter across the battery and just check that it's continually taking a charge. I might be getting towards the end of this process, so I guess I have to have another bit of footage where I go for a ride and I test it. Happy days. video. I've repeatedly put a meter across the battery. It's definitely taken a charge, so I'm guessing that the engine swap is now up, running and completed. I do need to do another 400 or 500 miles, change the oil, tighten everything up, give it a good looking at, but I honestly believe it's now running and reliable. Life is good. Let's move on to the next project.